So are you saying then that part of your internal, well, you're saying that this should supposedly be an internal critique from Maverick's side, that he needs to treat it this way. We've gone to a hadith, and then you in turn have gone to a hadith which says, oh, but Allah's laws actually fall outside of the Quran as well. I get that that's your defense, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So kudos on that. But then
I don't think because the Quran by itself, like if you don't have like the hadiths, then the Quran by itself is like you can't follow the Quran by itself without the hadiths.
Okay, so then right,
the scriptures.
Right,
that's actually what that hadith is saying. Like the stoning rule, the stoning law comes from other scriptures. So like,
but we believe we believe those previous scriptures were from God though.
Okay,
I believe
Salafia,
like in the
but
Torah,
here's
all
the
the laws are from God.
Salafia, your position is that without the hadith, the Quran cannot be understood.
Yeah.
Okay, now guys, I want you to listen to this.
That's true. Why do you think Quran only Muslims get baked all the time?
Well, you're kind of baking yourself, and I'm gonna explain to you why. I'm gonna explain to you why. Okay, 6114, Quran 11:1, 15:9. Shall I seek other than God a source of law when He has revealed to you this book fully detailed? Fully detailed. Quran 11:1, a scripture whose verses are detailed in knowledge, sent down from one all-wise, all-aware. 15:9, indeed it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed we will protect it. So now you're stating that the words in your own Quran are lies, because if the Quran is to be believed, and it is to be believed as a revelation from God, now you have just told the world, this is, and I'm glad I'm recording this, guys. This is Salafia Henny on TikTok.
Salafia Henny.
On TikTok. Just claimed that Quranists get baked all the time because they can't understand the Quran without the Hadith. Here's the problem. The Quran, which is supposedly the revelation from Allah through Muhammad, calls itself a detailed explanation of all things. So now what you're saying is that the Quran by itself is not enough. Is that your position?
Yeah, because just like for example,
that was his answer. Yeah,
just like for example. Okay, so what do you want to talk about?
Okay, you do know how to read, right?
Yeah, why is the Quran not enough for Sunni
Islam? Thank you. Why is the Quran not enough for Sunni Islam?
Well, of course, the Quran's enough.
Is it? So do you ever consult Hadith?
Of course we do, because the Quran tells us to.
Really? Where?
It tells us to obey the Prophet, obey Allah and obey His Messenger.
Where?
In the Quran, it says obey Allah and obey His Messenger.
Interesting, because in 6114 it says, "Shall I seek a judge other than Allah when it is He who has revealed to you the book explained in detail?" Okay.
When it says that, what is it referring to?
Okay, again, shall I seek a judge other than Allah? Is Muhammad Allah?
No, of course not.
Okay, thank you. So again, you right there already have introduced yourself a contradiction, because it is saying, according to you, it says for you to follow all the teachings of Muhammad. It doesn't say to follow the teachings of Muhammad outside of the revelation of the Quran. It says to follow the revelation of the Quran.
Of course.
Oh, of course.
To follow the revelation of the Quran.
Yeah, right. So nowhere in the Quran does it say to follow anything outside of the revelations given, the supposed revelations given to Muhammad from Allah, supposedly through the angel Jibreel. It doesn't say that anywhere.
It doesn't need to say that verbatim.
Oh, it doesn't need to. This is where you're running into your problem. Because also, hold on. Because also in Surah 1689, it says, "We have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things, and as guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslims." If the Quran explains all things.
Okay, chapter what?
1689.
Okay, let's go to 1689.
I just read it to you. That's what it says.
I'm gonna go pull it up right now.
You do that.
1689, right? Yeah, it's talking about the Day of Judgment, right? Pretty sure. Okay, go on.
I already said what I said.
That's all?
No, there's plenty.
Okay, keep going.
I said what I said. You have no answer for it, right?
No, because like I said, in the Quran, it tells you, it says obey Allah and obey His messenger, correct? How do we obey the messenger of Allah?
Okay, which chapter and verse are you going to? Here, let's bring it up. Which one are you talking about where it says obey the messenger?
Okay. Surah An-Nisa, verse 59.
I'm sorry?
Chapter 4, verse 59.
So where does it say, right.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Read it.
Go ahead.
O believers, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. Should you disagree on anything, then refer it to Allah and His messenger. If you truly believe in Allah in the last day, this is the best and fairest resolution.
Excellent. So is this talking about Hadith or is this talking about the Quran?
It's talking about obeying the Prophet.
No, it's not. O believers, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. Should you disagree on anything, then refer it to who?
Then go back to the Allah and His messenger.
And His messenger. And what came of the revelations between Allah and His messenger? What do you guys have that was revealed from Allah to the messenger?
The Quran and the Hadith.
No.
Of course.
No.
Hadith were not revealed to Muhammad.
No, they were not. As a matter of fact, the earliest Hadith came out 2 centuries after your Quran, my friend. So I'm going to ask you again.
No, that's a different argument.
No, it's not a different argument because at this time,
now you're referring to Hadith being written.
Right, yeah. So you just made an extremely idiotic argument because you said the Quran and the Hadith. There is nothing about the Hadith that, as a matter of fact, the Quran says not to refer to outside narrations or Hadith. Your Quran says that.
Okay. Here,
okay.
Let me go. All right. Yeah. Let me go find this verse. I want you to explain this verse to me then. All right. Give me a second.
No. You brought up 459, so you still have the burden of explaining where it says, then refer to Allah and His messenger if you truly believe in Allah and the last day. So Allah and His messenger had nothing to do with Hadith. Nothing whatsoever. This is talking about the supposed 23 years of revelation that Allah gave to your prophet and resulted in the Quran. There's nothing in here that says, and his messenger and his messenger's narrations. Where does it say that? To say nothing of the fact that your messenger's narrations, again, took centuries to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, that's just written down, but it was all oral revelation.
Oh, it was all oral revelation. So again, even if that were true, okay, well, if it was oral revelation, what was the oral chain that the Hadith were kept under? Who were the ones responsible for this oral chain?
Who are the ones responsible for oral chain?
Yeah, and even if you are able to provide that, you still have the burden of illustrating to us how 459 says that Hadith are permissible, because your book says not to go to outside narrations, and Hadith are not revelations from Allah. Hadith are not revelations from Allah. Hadith are not revelations from Allah. Excellent. Thank you for asking that.
You're gonna answer the question.
Yep.
Show me where it says to not follow outside narrations. Show me that.
I'm going to.
I just want to also make it clear that we still have to come back to Surah An-Nisa because this hasn't been resolved yet.
Right. So the Quran contains several verses that critics argue prohibit following outside narrations like Hadith, and instead direct believers to follow only the Quran. Some examples include verses that state, follow what has been brought down to you from your Lord, Quran 7, verses 2 through 3. Also, quote, we have not neglected in the book a thing, Quran 6:38. And a line of questioning. So, in which hadith after it do they believe? Quran 7750. You just blew yourself out of the water. You don't even know what the Quran says.
Chapter 6 what?
Brother, Quran 638, 7750, and chapter 7 verses 2 and 3.
Okay, you're just throwing a bunch of verses, so just go one by one.
Did he just not ask me to show him where in the Quran, Gary?
Yeah, so
it says not to follow outside.
Let's go
said,
one by one.
Okay, so you said show me where it says not to follow outside narrations. You didn't say give me one verse. So here, let's start with 7, 2, and 3. Follow what has been brought down to you from your Lord. and do not follow any allies besides him. Rarely do you remember. This verse is cited as a command to follow the Quran, the only source of divine guidance.
You said chapter 7, verse 23?
Oh my God, man. Chapter 7, verses 2 and 3.
I thought you said 23. Okay, verses 2 and 3. Okay, how is this? How does this mean not to follow hadiths? Like what? This is a book. This is a book sent down to you, O Prophet. Do not let anxiety into your heart regarding it. So who's speaking?
And do not take others. Do not take others as guardians besides him.
Yeah, and who is this? Who is speaking right here? To who? Who's being spoken to in chapter 7?
This, according to you, is Allah speaking through Muhammad.
No, speaking to him, right?
Speaking through him.
No, because it's no. Let's read the verse.
Read it.
This is a book sent down to you, O Prophet. Do not let anxiety into your heart regarding it. Right. So it's telling the Prophet not to take others as guardians beside him.
This is your Prophet speaking to the people. This is Allah giving a revelation to the people through your Prophet. Stop trying to lie, dude. Stop trying to lie.
That's literally what the verse says.
This is instruction for people, telling people not to follow outside hadith.
Brother.
Dude, first thing that you search.
Did I just read the verse to you?
Yes, and I read it to you. And the very first thing, very first thing that it says, and look, even if you Google it, the first thing that it says, the Quran contains several verses that emphasize following the Quran alone and not outside narratives or tradition. Key verses often cited include those that instruct believers to follow, quote, what has been brought down to you from your Lord, end quote, and to avoid following conjecture or the practices of others that led them away from God. For example, Surah Al-Araf, brother, saying no doesn't help you. This is exactly what it's saying. Or, I'm sorry, is the World Wide Web now conspiring against you?
Go on, keep reading.
I already finished.
Okay. So, like I said, for examples, we can just go to, like I said, chapter 4, verse 59.
Negative. We're going to stay on what I just gave you.
We could go to
because you're trying to get away from me. You're trying to waffle. So, again,
59, verse
how
7.
do you explain where it says what it says here in Surah Al-Araf, chapter 7, verses 2 and 3? Which makes it clear it has nothing to do.
Sent down to you, O Prophet. Do not let anxiety into your hearts regarding it. So with it, you may warn the disbelievers, and as a reminder to the believers, follow what has been sent down to you from your Lord, and do not take others as guardians beside him. How seldom are you mindful?
Right.
So these
hadiths that you refer to, how many guardians do you have? Because let's for the moment say that you were correct, which you're not. But let's just say for the sake of argument that you were correct and the recitations or the narrations of Muhammad were okay for you guys to consult, even though your book makes it clear you're not supposed to. What about all of their narrations of people that you guys consult that are not from Muhammad?
They lead back to the Prophet. They just all the narrations lead back to the Prophet.
So now what they say is as important as what your messenger says.
No, because they're saying what the messenger said.
So again, you haven't answered the question. 1689. We have sent down to you the book.
You're off of 7. Okay, now you're
because you're pretending like it doesn't say what it says.
Chapter 7 is
okay. Okay, so because you're pretending like it doesn't 16. Say what it says. So I'm going to move back to my original point, which
16 what?
Which you ran away from. We have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things, and as guidance and mercy, and good tidings for the Muslims. Okay, so if the Quran is the book of clarification for all things and guidance, why are you going to the Hadith?
Because the Hadiths. When the Prophet is giving rulings or whatever it can be, it's all coming from God.
That's not revelation from God, so I don't give a damn about his rulings. I asked you, why are you going outside? No.
The Prophet doesn't speak on his own desires.
Right. But this is not part of the Quran.
An example.
Okay, let me finish. Hold on. No. I'm going to finish. Because the fact of the matter is, you are trying to talk about his rulings, things that didn't come until centuries later on, and you have yet to try to explicitly explain how it is that if those things were revealed from God, then why aren't they in the Quran? If those things, if those
Like, for
rulings
example-
and the speech from Muhammad was from Allah, then why are they not in your holy book?
Doesn't need to be. It's
Yeah,
in the. It's in the. It's in the
what?
Sunnah. Just like in chapter 33, verse 21. What does it say? Indeed, in the messenger of Allah, you have an excellent example for whomever hopes for Allah in the last day and remembers Allah often. Right?
Okay, so your book,
chapter
so your
33
book is
verse
not. Hold on.
21.
We're still on 1689, brother. You don't run the show here. All right. So again, if the Quran is a clarification for all things by itself, why are we going to things that came centuries later? Why are we going to man-made collections written 200 years after Muhammad to explain the Quran, yet the Quran says not to follow anything that lacks divine authority? The Hadiths do not have divine authority.
Yeah, to us they do.
That doesn't matter to you. Is
Of
it the
course
Quran?
It is. You're in our paradigm.
Is it
Of
that?
course
No,
it is.
I'm not in your paradigm.
Could I
That's
ask
the
you a
point.
question?
Of course you
Yeah,
are.
yeah. Go ahead. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
So could I ask you a
Of
question?
course you are.
Like,
If you're using verses in the Quran to try to say that the Quran has to be followed
Brother,
and nothing else,
I'm
then
using
yeah, you're
verses
my
in the
paradigm.
Quran to show you how
So now you're doing
hypocritical
it,
you are.
now you're doing an internal critique on the
I'm
Quran,
not doing
correct?
it. Dude, get the hell out of my face with your
That's
internal
literally what that
critiques.
is. That's literally what that is.
You
What
do
you're
you
doing.
even know what an internal
That's literally
critique
what
is?
you're doing.
Because
That
if
is
you're doing an
literally what
internal
you're-
critique, if you're doing an internal critique, you fool, then that means that we would be talking about the Quran alone. We're not talking about the Quran alone because you are utilizing man-made written documents known as hadith and narrations to explain your book. So it is not an internal critique because you're going to 600,000 man-made written narrations to explain a 70,000 word supposed holy book.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
I just wanted to ask. So, like, if you say that the hadith are equally as divinely, I guess, prescriptive, let's use that word. Like, what if the hadith say that you shouldn't go outside of anything that Allah has strictly permitted? So, for example, like Sahih al-Bukhari 2729, where it says any condition which is not in Allah's laws is invalid.
2739.
Yeah, Hadith 2729 at the bottom part of it, where it says
2729.
any condition that is not in Allah's laws is invalid.
What is wrong with some people who stipulate things which are not in Allah's laws? Any condition which is not in Allah's laws is invalid, even if there were 100 such conditions. Allah's rules are the most valid, and Allah's conditions are the most solid. The wala is for the manumitted. Okay, so like for example, like the hadith where they bring the adulterers, right? No, not the person who raped somebody, right? And then the Prophet said that to stone them, right? That was the punishment for them, because we don't find that in the Quran, the punishment for grape, right? And so the Prophet said to stone them. We don't believe that this is the Prophet's own judgment. We believe this is judgment from God, right? That would be one of Allah's laws when the Prophet said to stone the one who grapes somebody. So there wouldn't be a contradiction in that at all.
So are you saying then that part of your internal, well, you're saying that this should supposedly be an internal critique from Maverick's side, that he needs to treat it this way. We've gone to a hadith, and then you in turn have gone to a hadith which says, oh, but Allah's laws actually fall outside of the Quran as well. I get that that's your defense, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So kudos on that. But then
I don't think because the Quran by itself, like if you don't have like the hadiths, then the Quran by itself is like you can't follow the Quran by itself without the hadiths.
Okay, so then right,
you follow the
right,
previous scriptures.
right,
That's actually what that hadith is saying. Like the stoning rule, the stoning law comes from other scriptures. So like,
Yeah, but we believe all.
this,
Yeah, but we believe those previous scriptures were from God, though.
Okay,
I believe
Salafia,
like in the
but
Torah,
here's
all
the
the laws
thing.
are from God.
Salafia, your position is that without the hadith, the Quran cannot be understood.
Yeah,
Okay, now guys, I want you to listen to this. This
that's
is
true.
directly.
Why do you think Quran only Muslims get baked all the time?
Well,
These
you're
Quran only Muslims.
you're kind of baking yourself, and I'm gonna
Muslims
explain
always
to you
get
why.
baked.
I'm gonna explain to you why. Okay, 6:114, Quran 11:1, 15:9. Shall I seek other than God a source of law when He has revealed to you this book fully detailed? Fully detailed. Quran 11:1, a scripture whose verses are detailed in knowledge, sent down from one all wise, all aware. 15:9, indeed it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed we will protect it. So now you're stating that the words in your own Quran are lies, because if the Quran is to be believed and it is to be believed as a revelation from God, now you have just told the world, this is, and I'm glad I'm recording this, guys. This is Salafia Henny on TikTok.
Salafia Henny, yep. Salafia Henny,
on TikTok. Just claimed that Quranists get baked all the time because they can't understand the Quran without the Hadith. Here's the problem. The Quran, which is supposedly the revelation from Allah through Muhammad, calls itself a detailed explanation of all things. So now what you're saying is that the Quran by itself is not enough. Is that your position?
Yeah, because just like, for example.
That was his answer. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, for example, like 1644, and then even Surah Asr 59:7, chapter 59, verse 7, it says, whatever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatever he forbids you from, refrain from it, right? So that's going to be an example of why we should follow the hadiths. Chapter 4, verse 65 is an example. Surah An-Nur, that's chapter 24, verse 63. I mean, even like I said, chapter 33, verse 21, where it says that the prophet is going to be the best example, right? So where do we get the example of the prophet? We get that from the Sunnah. For example, like in verses.
Sorry, you mentioned 465, right?
Yeah,
that
chapter 4, verse 65.
Yeah, that was actually linking to what was mentioned in 459. I remember you brought that up.
Yeah, but it says I'll read it. Chapter 4, verse 6, Surah An-Nisa 65. But no, by your Lord, they will not truly believe until they make you, O Muhammad, judge in all disputes between them, then find within themselves no resistance to your decision except with full submission. Right? So that's going to be.
You can see that the context of that goes from 59. And what it says is that Allah and Muhammad together are meant to be judges in the things that are disputes between the people. This is not a wholesale ruling that Muhammad and Allah have to be judges. That's why Maverick was calling out the supposed contradiction.
No, because we don't just exegete the Quran by just going to like 4 verses, right? We have to take the Quran for its full, for the full word it says. But no, because even what about so in chapter 59 verse 7 when it says whatever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatever he forbids you from, refrain from it, right? And the other one I told you was in chapter 33 where it says that the prophet is the best example, right? Well, where do we get the example of the prophet? We don't get the example of the prophet from the Quran, right? We get that from the hadiths. We get that from the Sunnah. So I don't think that the Quran alone is going to be sufficient to by itself. No.
Yeah.
So the Quran lied. The
no,
Quran lied.
You're just not understanding the Quran.
I understand the Quran, and you're not going to hide behind pseudo-intellectual BS on my channel because you're calling the Quran a liar. You're calling the Quran a liar. And just so you know, legend has it you're still talking because nobody can hear you. But I'm letting you know now that you literally called the Quran a liar because the Quran, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, calls itself a detailed explanation of all things. Yes or no?
Those words are there, yes.
And if you guys want to interpret the other verses to state that you should obey everything that Muhammad ever said, even though there's nothing in the Quran that even remotely says that whatever Muhammad says outside of the Quran is to be followed, that's something that actually came retroactively centuries later. And people started writing hadiths and supposedly saying that Muhammad said these things. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing in the Quran that states that you are to follow whatever it is that Muhammad supposedly said. There is nothing in the wording, nothing in the context of this book that claims that you should ever go to outside hadith. It says that you shouldn't go to outside hadith. You know why? Because it calls itself a detailed explanation of all things, which is what brings me back to what I was saying earlier, right? Because now, according to this Muslim, 1689 and 6114 are complete nonsense. Shall I seek a judge other than Allah when it is He who has revealed to you the book explained in detail? Now, my friend, can you explain to me in 6114, and I know you have little regard for the Quran because you pretty much made that clear. Shall I seek a judge other than Allah when it is He who has revealed to you the book explained in detail? What book is Surah 6114 talking about?
Surah 6, chapter 6, 115.
114.
Should be talking about the Quran.
The Quran. Okay. Now, can you explain to us why here it's saying, shall I seek a judge other than Allah? Who revealed the Quran? Who revealed it?
Who revealed the Quran?
Yeah. The Quran are the words of
God,
Allah, right? When it is He, God, who has revealed to you, Muhammad and Islam and the people of the world, the book explained in detail. My friend, where in here does it say, where shall I seek? It's saying, shall I seek a judge other than Allah? It doesn't say, shall I seek a judge other than Allah or Muhammad? It says, shall I seek a judge other than Allah? Yeah, so now at the very best, what you have now are contradictory verses, because you have Muslims who are taking some verses and interpreting it as permission to consult hadith, and you have other verses that make it clear that you are not supposed to go outside of your own Quran.
No, I don't agree.
I don't care if you agree. I'm asking you to explain Surah 6:114, where it doesn't say anything about going through Muhammad's judgment, because at least Allah knew enough in this verse to say that Muhammad's judgment means nothing.
Chapter 59, verse 7. I already told you.
Right. Again, so what you have now done is at the very best showed a glaring contradiction in your own book. Because if that verse means what you interpret it to mean, it is at complete odds with Surah chapter 6, verse 114. Yes or no, Gary?
That's what I was saying. Like, by him affirming what he affirmed earlier, he's basically saying that, like, Surah An-Nisa from 59 to 65 is concerned, that is a package deal of judgment between Allah and Muhammad, whereas what we see in 6114 makes Allah the sole judge. And the Prophet himself is the one who says this.
He got off the app. And you know what, Salafia, just so you know, he's still here, but he got off the app. Just so you know, there are Muslims in the chat pretty pissed off at you right now. One of them's even saying you can't say the Quran is incomplete, bro.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm pretty sure he was already like in a bad position once he said Quran only Muslims are going to get paid, because at least like 4 or 5 people are going to come up and start trying to disagree with him.
Look, another one saying, "Are you a Muslim? Are you a Muslim?" Look, and he left. He left. Another Muslim runs away, ladies and gentlemen. Another Muslim runs away because
that's a glaring contradiction, and I don't know how he didn't see that while he was defending it.
I'm sorry. What verse was he talking about? He said Surah 59:7. Was that the one he was saying that allows them to consult hadith?
I'll check.
Yeah, let me know, because I want to know. At the very least, all you have done is shown the world the incoherency of the Quran. That's all he's done. He ended up leaving. Bro, you even had somebody in here. You have a Muslim in here saying you can't say the Quran is incomplete, bro. This is your mind on Islam, ladies and gentlemen. Surah 6:114 says you can't go to outside narrations. It says, "Shall I seek a judge other than Allah, when it is He who has revealed to you the book explained in detail?" The Quran.
It says, "Say, O Prophet." So Muhammad
oh my gosh!
Saying this to the people.
Which verse is it?
Muhammad himself is saying Allah is the only. No, that one that you just read. It says,
"Oh yeah,
say, O Prophet." So it's like can't even be speaking to Muhammad. That
right.
He must take Allah as his only judge. It's actually Muhammad commanding the other people to take Allah as their only judge, which is what makes it so damning.
Oh my gosh! This dude was legitimately talking about this verse. There's no way that he's talking about this verse. Ladies and gentlemen, he went to Surah 59:7, where it says, "As for gains granted by Allah to his messenger from the people of other lands." This is not about narrations and judgments. This was about wartime. This was about the things that were given to. This was about giving to people.
Maverick, can I just say something?
Yes, please.
Just notice something. When I brought up Surah An-Nisa, I actually took him on a context flow between verse 59 through to 65 in showing that, listen, this is talking about when the Muslims have disputes. Then they are recommended to go to Allah and Muhammad together. It's not a wholesale thing of saying take them both on as judge, right?
Yeah.
But then he goes, no, that's not the context. And what did he do? He gave me 3 verses, all in 3 different chapters, all over the show, far away from each other. So he's the one cherry picking his own Quran. And that's why he's in trouble.
And here's the thing, guys. If you even show me something that even is remotely coherent as far as this is what tells us we should follow Muhammad, I didn't see a single verse that could be interpreted that way. But let's just say you do enough mental gymnastics to do that. Let's just say that for the sake of argument, those verses say, yeah, go ahead and follow hadith. You have parts of the Quran telling you not to do that, and then other parts of the Quran telling you to do that. And I'm not even granting that that interpretation is the correct one. I'm just telling you that even if I did grant that, you have done nothing but show a contradiction, a glaring one, that makes it clear that Allah does not want you going to hadith. They use the word hadith, narration, Arabic, hadith. That's what it is. It doesn't say, hey, everything that Muhammad ever says. It doesn't say that. As for gains granted by Allah to his messenger from the people of other lands, they are for Allah and the messenger, his close relatives, orphans, the poor, and needy travelers, so that wealth may not merely circulate among your rich. Whatever the messenger gives you, take it. And whatever he forbids from you, leave it. And fear Allah. Surely Allah is severe in punishment. Are you guys seriously telling me that this is what they're looking at and saying that this is referring to hadith? This was talking about the gains from people for other lands. They are for Allah and the messenger. This is about his basically the things that he is acquiring from military conquests. What does that have to do with hadith? This has nothing to do with hadith and later narrations. Come on, guys. Word Unbox, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and put these up. Thank you for the roses, Word. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I cannot believe, I can't believe this dude is. And then gets mad at me. He was like, oh, you're jumping around? Brother, I asked you about the same verse 3 times. You refused to answer. And then when you finally did, you lied and said that it meant something completely different. Do you want me to stay here all day on the side? This is your mind on Islam, ladies and gentlemen. You can't make this up. Another Muslim ran, man. He ran. He said, hang on a second. I think it was a mixture of things. I think that he came in here and said that Quran-only Muslims get baked. And then we showed him with his own book that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he kind of started seeing the comments and wanted nothing to do with it anymore.
Do you know what was funny about it, Maverick? Like, he was pacing you on, like, no. Since you're doing it like this is an internal critique. Mm-hmm. But as soon as that internal critique pointed to our scriptures for that stoning verse, he was like, back to the verse.
Well, he wasn't ready, man. He wasn't ready, bro.
As soon as you go there, you have to affirm our scriptures. Yep. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You can't have an internal critique because the Quran always goes external.
Absolutely.
So unless you say our Bible is internal, and then it's fine to say an internal critique. Exactly. But you can't say the Hadith because the Quran says no, not Hadiths. They're a confession that you're rejecting the Quran.
Yep.
We're gonna call this the Hadith dilemma.
Yeah, no kidding. We got another guest on TikTok. Who's on? Oh my God. Do you want to talk to who's on third? Because I don't have the patience for this guy today. It's up to you, Gary, if you want to talk to him.
I don't know if I'm in the trolling mood. Like, I had a lot of fun with him the last time.
Yeah.
Like, I know that he likes to speak over people, and
He
I
does.
can take that.
He
I
does.
can take it. I'm not intimidated by that.
Right. He's on one.
So we'll see.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's go.
All right, cool. This is your mind on Islam, ladies and gentlemen. Another one bites the dust.